Hello, everyone. Chris here from Midwest Coaster Fans, bringing you a breaking news update. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button. This is kind of like a podcast, but it's not a podcast. It's more of a breaking news thing. We just found out by kind of like a vague post that was listed on Facebook. We looked up information ourselves and found out that Indiana Beach and Fantasy Island have been removed from Apex Parks Group. This is a huge shakeup, especially in Indiana, due to the fact that Indiana Beach has been in Indiana, and Monticello, Indiana, since 1926. It just got done celebrating its 90th anniversary not too long ago. And obviously, as many of you know, in 6 years, it would be celebrating its 100th anniversary. And this park has been a staple of the Monticello community and actually the whole community of the Midwest for quite some time. Unfortunately, the Spackman family decided not to continue owning the park due to health reasons with their father, and also we're not sure on the whole specifics of why the park was 100% sold, but they were basically lied to by a corporation called Morgan. Morgan went in there. They no longer exist anymore, but they owned a bunch of RV resorts all over the country. Promised to they basically just wanted their campgrounds, so they got this park. Also brought in these people that supposedly knew a lot about amusement parks, and they destroyed basically the image of Indiana Beach. Many of you probably been to like Nobles and places like that, and know that Noble still kind of carries the same tradition of allowing you to pay per ride, or you pay for a whole day. Indiana Beach used to have that model. You paid to go on the boardwalk, you paid per ride, or you could pay for like a combination pass to get you into the water park and amusement park. Most of the investments that were added to Indiana Beach were during the Spackman years. The only things that were added during the Apex years and the Morgan years were basically carnival rides. I give props to Apex, however, for turning the park around and basically redoing the Ferris wheel, updating the lighting, and making sure all the rides ran correctly again. I didn't like the investment on a couple other things. I didn't see a lot of park investment being done for new construction of rides. A couple of the rides I didn't like were running over the last couple of years were the Musical Express and the Scrambler had an arm that wasn't swinging. So the park maintenance was, superb, but there was a couple of rides that I had issues with. And also the retracking of the Hoosier Hurricane before the 25th was not done. And that should have spelled out something there, because there was a couple of rough patches on the Hoosier Hurricane that kind of really upset me. It's kind of a staple for me and other members of our team, to include Dustin. Dustin and I have been going to the park for a long, long time. I've been going to that park since like probably 1988, I would say. I've been going to that Indiana Beach. My mom's been to the park. A lot of people in my family have gone to the park. I imagine Dustin's the same. Jacob and Annika and Stacy probably recently just started going to the park again, so they're not 100% sure on the past of it, besides the stuff that I told them. So this is kind of an upsetting thing for us to see, like a park being taken off of a list and no season passings being able to happen. And we also been told that some of the rides have been put up for sale. Maintenance staff and other workers have been told that they're not going to be returning at this time. So the question remains, is there a new owner? Is the park just going to sit in disrepair and just be one of those lost and forgotten parks in the United States of America due to being a small park? The question remains, but one thing we do know for certain is that Fantasy Island will probably be bought due to being in a tourist area, so I'm not too concerned about hearing about that. I think Fantasy Island will see a new owner. I think Indiana Beach will see a new owner as well, due to the love that it has from the community. The community is not going to let a park like that go. The problem is it has a lot of stigma from the Morgan years, and a lot of people still believe that Morgan owned the park. So in my opinion, the ownership of Apex did not do a good job trying to get the stigma of that gone. But you kind of see the same stigma down in Kentucky Kingdom as well, with having to pick up the pieces that Six Flags kind of destroyed of the park's rep. And now we're looking over to Indiana Beach. Like I said, Fantasy Island will most likely be bought by somebody new, because Fantasy Island's in a touristy area of Niagara Falls. So I don't foresee that scene. It's never been a hugely popular park anyways, Fantasy Island. It just has a selection of rides, but it's been featured on a lot of vlogs and stuff like that. And I think it was more loved by the Apex Parks group more than that. What's weird is that the amusement parks were the only ones taken off there. The water parks are still listed on Apex Parks group. So my thing is, Apex probably sold their amusement parks. So they probably sold Fantasy Island and Indiana Beach in a package. The question remains, like, what is going to be announced here in the next month? What company is going to be buying out these two parks? These two parks aren't like huge earners in the business right now. Indiana Beach used to average like 900,000 visitors a year, but right now it's, hovering probably around 400,000 to 500,000. So whatever owner comes in here has to do what they said they were going to do, because we had, the fallout with Taco Shop leaving the park last year. And then, well, actually, no, it was the year before that, because Taco Shop wasn't at Indiana Beach at all last season. And, I kind of brushed it off like, maybe it was just because of the lack of people going down to the south part of Indiana Beach at the park. But we saw a lot of mishaps. The staffing and things of that nature just weren't there at Indiana Beach. And I saw a lot of issues going on last year with them only running one train, and then the issues along with some of the rides not getting new computer boards, such as Lost Coast or Superstition Mountain needing a new computer board in order to launch multiple trains on it. But like I said, the park maintenance was not the problem at Indiana Beach. It was a lack of investment from Apex Parks Group over the last couple years. The first year they invested heavily into the park due to Al Weber being the CEO and him wanting to invest heavily into the park, because he had a lot of good oversight. He knew what he wanted to do over the 5 years at Indiana Beach. But after his death, we just saw a limited amount of investment. And we saw them get rid of Don Hurd, who was the park operator. And once he left the park, or he was a park president, sorry. Once he left and they brought in new people, we didn't see a lot of investment being done to the park. I mean, I could look at many things. They've been selling, discounted season passes, which is usually not a good thing. Usually you're trying to beef up your numbers for a sale or something else of that matter. But once that happened, and then I started walking around, I noticed, small little things that should have been fixed. Limited amount of investment into, little details into the park, such as landscaping, such as just making the park look really good. Last year, I didn't see a lot of repainting being done, which in previous years, painting was being done to the park to make it look fresh every year. There's so many things I could talk about right now, but this is mainly to let you guys know that Apex has taken Indiana Beach and Fantasy Island off of their thing, and you can't buy season passes right now. So when are they gonna announce the new owners? When are they going to announce what's going to happen to the people that bought season passes? We just did a season pass giveaway for Indiana Beach on our Facebook page, and like I said, what are we going to do now? We're going to have to figure out something else. So this is a huge shakeup to the amusement park community. If many of you guys know, it used to be a family-owned park. Like I said, owned by the Spackman family from 1926 and on. Sold in 2008 to Morgan. Morgan eventually sold the park over to Apex and kind of, lied to Apex from what I understand. But, limited amount of investment. Most of the new rides were added during the Spackman years. They were not added at all, really, during the Morgan or Apex years, besides carnival rides, which I didn't appreciate, because Spackman always made sure there was permanent rides. Even if, he saw something, he made sure it was a permanent structure inside the park. There was not carnival rides. They had permanent structures, not trailers that had rides attached to them and such like that. So there's a lot of things I saw removal of, and then you saw Apex remove the water show. Morgan didn't even remove the water show. And the water ski show was like a trademark of Indiana Beach for forever. And then they started adding bands last year, which I thought it was a good idea, but I think redoing the ballroom was a good choice. Bringing in bands was a good choice, but removing the water show was not a good choice. Letting Taco Shop leave the park was not a good choice. The limited amount of investments at the south end of the park was not a good choice. If they would have made some investments and listened to the community, I think they would have been more successful as owners. So I think if they would have brought back the boardwalk pass, the paper ride thing, stuff like that, instead of just focusing on season passes, I think you would have had a lot of locals return to the park, and they would have saw more. They would have saw more of an investment of the community bringing back into the park, and you saw more out-of-towners coming back to the park as well. When talking about new for each year, there was really nothing new. You had a used carnival ride called Zero G brought in. It's kind of like an in-between ride. You saw a lot of investment in like the Ferris wheel and other rides and stuff like that during the first year. The second year, you saw nothing. And then you have the lack of investment inside, a lot of the facilities, to include the changing room area for when you go into the water park. Lack of investment into the water park besides painting of the water slides. Nothing being done to Galaxy Pier. A lot of, a lot of questions for me because I didn't hear a lot of news being presented from Apex or the park to the community. And usually they've already announced something by now, and it's already, almost the end of February. And like I said before, we have not heard anything from the park. And I'm going to be the first to break to you guys the news. I'm also going to be the first to tell you the truth about the park. I didn't like the direction it was headed. As you guys saw from my end of season review, the park probably didn't appreciate what I said, but I was around with the park during the SPACman years, and many people say, well, that's in the past. You need to forget about it. But the thing is, you can't forget about something. You can't forget about a family who took such good care of a park. And then when they sold it off, you didn't see that good care of the park anymore. So with that being said, just stay tuned to our page for more updates on this, because I'm going to bring you guys more updates as updates become available. But yes, Indiana Beach has been taken off of Apex Parks groups. You can't buy any more season passes. And also Fantasy Island's been taken off there as well. This is breaking news. This is not made up. You'll see the screenshots as I'm talking here of the different things that we discovered. And it's not pretty. It's not good news for the community. There's a lot of people that depend on Indiana Beach and the community, probably more so than Fantasy Island. This is a lot of people are employed by Indiana Beach. A lot of cottages and places like that near there depend on people to go to Indiana Beach to rent out these properties. Lake Schaefer, Lake Freeman, Monticello, Indiana, that whole area depends on that park. So if this park's shut down with no new owners, which I highly doubt that's going to happen, but I don't know who the new owners are at this current time. But the thing is, Apex Parks Group removed Fantasy Island and Indiana Beach, which means they sold off their amusement parks. My guess is because they invested very little, they got very little back. The amusement park industry is not an industry that's for everybody. And I think Apex Parks Group owns those water park resorts, and they're probably doing pretty well on those because they're already, a part of the community, but they're more like family fun centers in my opinion. But anyways, with that being said, this is Chris signing off for Midwest Coaster fans. Until next time, stay tuned for more breaking news on this whole entire fiasco of Apex Parks Group's, removing Indiana Beach and Fantasy Island basically from anything dealing with or amounting to them. So with that being said, until next time, Chris signing off. Thanks again for watching our video / whatever this is podcast.